Hello Tenno, Zelp here, and today we're going to take another look at Gara. Because of updates, hotfixes on her, there'll be some changes and I'd like to address them in this video. In case you haven't seen the first video, make sure you go and see it before coming over here, because things that I've already talked about in that previous video will not be repeated here. Now I believe that you guys are in for a treat, because I am especially sensitive towards Gara, considering that she's becoming more and more of a main Warframe that I use. And also at the end of this video we are going to do the Glyph Giveaway for YouTube, so do stay tuned. It is important to note that when I made my first Gara video, which is one of the first few, Wiki wasn't well up to date yet. And a lot of the things within the wiki actually wasn't there before, and a lot of things has changed. Now the reason why I brought this up is because there are some information that I got from wiki back then is no longer accurate, and in fact it wasn't accurate at that moment as well, because Gara was not behaving the way wiki actually said it is. But no hate on wiki, because they are trying their best to give us information that we could work with, some sort of like a guideline kind of thing. In fact, I would feel like it might be more of a digital extreme not providing wiki with enough information or accurate information. One of the reasons why I would think that is because a few months ago, someone that claimed to be part of Warframe wiki community asked me to join in and help update the Warframe wiki, and back then I was really skeptical and wasn't sure what exactly is required for me to do, what kind of responsibility I'm gonna get, and how does it actually benefit me. So I declined, because I don't even know the guy. Is he even real? Now we assume that a lot of Warframe partners may have the same offer, but what I'm trying to say here is that they seem to be trying to get more help in keeping the information they provide accurate, and that's actually something very good on their part. Now let's jump right into the abilities. So the first ability is Shattered Lash, and this ability has different animation and does different things when you tap it and when you hold it. Now the way I remember it back when I read the wiki, it says the damage is being distributed between 3 physical type equally. If that is true, and since I realized from my testing that the damage actually done is different, it can only mean that there's a different damage multiplier at play, since the damage type is the same. However, right now if you go back to wiki, you'll see that if you tap the ability, it actually does puncture damage, and if you hold it, it does slash damage. Now this makes a lot of sense, since it doesn't work with Shattering Impact, which requires it to do impact damage. It also makes sense that the tapping does more damage than the slashing against a Grineer, which is the enemy that I am testing with back then. Now this is actually really good, because for example, in most cases, assaulted weapons, they have their physical damage from their base damage being split up equally. So let's say, just for easy calculation, let's say it has a base damage of 600. So if you have 3 physical damage type and each one has equally distribution, each one will do 200 damage. So if you put something like a buzzkill that increases the slash damage by 120%, you're only increasing the 200 damage of slash damage by 120%. However, now it's not the case. Okay, and I'm going to show you a quick demonstration. Right now I'm using the dual cleavers with practically nothing on except a pressure point, and then I am going to summon a infested ancient healer. Now infested are generally weak against slash, so we're gonna use the slash attack to see the damage. So I'm not sure if you see it, is 2642. Okay, now I'm gonna go back, jump all the way back here, and I'm gonna grab I'm just gonna put on a buzzkill. Okay, now this buzzkill is gonna increase it by 120%, and since the whole damage is purely slash damage, it's gonna increase that entire damage by 120%. So let's take a look. Here we go. There, do you see it? It's 5778, and where the hell did you go? Oh, okay. So let's see that again. Look, 5778 from one mod. Do you see where I'm going here? To make sure that when you hold it does slash damage and when you tap it does do puncher damage, I found a way to do this without any calculations. All you need is 2 different health types from enemies and just make sure that the damage multiplier from each individual damage type is the same. So in this case, I found that the robotics and also the infested both has a 25% damage multiplier against one on puncher and another one on slash. So if the damage is really close to each other, when I use this ability, you can tell that it is one doing puncher and another one doing slash. Some extra things to note is that when you tap the ability, it actually does a one-handed action, and when you hold the ability and do a swipe, it does a two-handed action. So what this basically means is that when you're firing, you could use your first ability and basically nothing, it doesn't stop. However, if you do a swipe, it will stop your firing, and then you have to click again to continue firing. So there's that. Now another thing is that both ability can be done while in mid-air. So you could jump really high and do a swipe. You could also jump really high and do a tap to do your first ability. However, when it comes to aiming, the first ability can shoot something at a different angle. You could shoot upwards, you could shoot downwards. However, your swipe does not. If you look up and you swipe, it will still swipe at the same location. So that's something to take note of. Now let's talk about Splinter Storm. This ability is really great, one of the most used ability, and you guys know how it works if you have seen my first video, so go ahead and see it if you haven't. But the thing here that I'm extremely proud of is that I actually found a mechanic of Splinter Storm before it even came out of Wiki. So again, watch the first video and you know what I'm talking about. However, I did not know that it could also work with the 4th ability. When the glass of the 4th ability breaks, it also gets absorbed by the Splinter Storm. However, what Wiki did not mention is that it doesn't get absorbed by Splinter Storm on enemies. It gets absorbed by Splinter Storm on yourself. So, I kinda sort of see something here and thought of something and came up with an idea like 5 minutes ago. Wait, I mean after years and years of playing with Gara, I found this idea that will change how you might look at her. Now the idea here is very simple. If you cast Splinter Storm on an enemy, the enemy will eventually die and the damage cannot be stacked up really high. However, if you can cast it on yourself, and considering that you do not actually have to wait for the ability Splinter Storm to expire before you can actually recast it, you can use your 4th ability to refresh the duration. You can potentially increase and stack up the damage that the Splinter Storm is doing infinitely. Alright, so let me just show you a quick example. Over here we have a heavy gunner at level 110 because that's the highest that I could summon at the moment. Again, this is a relatively new account. So I'm gonna get my Splinter Storm thing going on, and then I am going to use my... Wait, what am I doing? Okay, so first thing is I want you to take a look at the damage. Is 17 damage. Okay, when I go out of the 4th ability, break it, and I will absorb some of that glass or something, whatever, and deal a little bit more damage. So right now I am doing 98 damage. Do you see it? 98 damage per tick. Okay, and what basically this means is that I can keep repeating this and keep storing up the shard damage. So let's see, now it's 179. Okay, so let's do this back at home base because I need a lot of energy.
One eternity later.
Okay guys, I think this is it. I don't have a lot of time, so let's the idea is still the same. It can go on forever and ever as long as you take the just break the shards, break the 4th ability near your Splinter Storm. You can absorb that damage, and since every single time you cast the 4th ability, your Splinter Storm gets refreshed. So now let's see how much damage I'm doing. So I'm doing 2,613 damage per tick on a heavy gunner at level 110. Now again, I can keep doing it and keep stacking it up, and it can potentially go to like insane amount. You might want to consider having more duration so that you don't accidentally lose your Splinter Storm. Then you're gonna lose all that stack as well. So you want to make sure you want to make sure you don't lose it. So let's see, how much is it now? 3,000 what? 3,018 damage. But yeah, you get the picture. I want to make it more interesting by doing it more, but like, I don't know, kill the heavy gunner in 3 ticks or something. But Jesus, that's a lot of stack. Okay, now that I got that out of my system, the damage absorbed by Splinter Storm on the 3rd ability is explained in Wiki. However, the 4th ability is not really explained properly on the damage, and I'm not really ready to jump down that rabbit hole just yet. So maybe we'll come revisit this some other time. With maximum range, Splinter Storm can also push enemies away, and it actually starts pushing 7 meters away. So in some cases, melee attacks actually could not hit you at all, but there are rare occasions where they could actually hit you, and that could be further avoided if you have some kind of CC involved, like for example a snow globe. In many occasions when I fight the Eidolon Terralis, I do not have a Trinity or Oberon with me, and all I have to do is cast Splinter Storm on the lure to keep it alive, and it has worked in many occasions in order for us to get a flawless. Now let's take a look at its 3rd ability, Spectral Rage. And this ability, most of what I want to say has already been mentioned in the first video, but there is something that I'd like to mention here, is that the range in which it lures enemy into it is also affected by your ability range. So what does this mean? This means that if I have a build that sort of highlights really low range, you can pretty much forget about luring enemies in. So for example, let's summon 20 of these beautiful butchers. Okay, now when you're at a certain height, they couldn't really see you, they sort of pause at a certain location. Now let's say if I put my Spectral Rage here, see, they will not go in or do damage to it, but it has to be so close. You know what, let me just go a little bit closer. See, it's still not attracting him, but if you go close enough, there you go, now he sees it and now he starts attacking. Now what I'm basically trying to say is that the 3rd ability does not matter on what the enemy vision range is. It's all about the ability range. So for example, yes, I'm using paint. So for example, if you have the ability and the mirrors going around this circle, okay, it has another circle somewhere around like that attracts enemies. Okay, and it diminishes, it becomes smaller and smaller as the radius of the inner circle decreases as well. So for example, let's just put it into a little bit racial-ish thing. Okay, so let's say if the distance from here to here is it's 1 meter, okay, and the distance from the center, as in the radius, to the other end of the inner circle is, let's say, 3 meters. Alright, so as this one reduced by half, which is 1.5 meters, this one will also reduce by half, which is 0.5 meters, and this is why belief is happening. Okay, so as this one decreases as well. So when the circle is like super small, so for example right now we are trying to build a circle at that radius, okay, and then you will have your other circle which is going to be like that. It's in ratio, basically it's in ratio, which I have problem drawing. Whatever, you get what I mean. So like for example, you see that guy over there, he's like right over there. If I were to cast it right over here, there you go, it still works. Look at that guy, the guy did not see until you reach around there. Now you can see that there is a distance between, so let's say here to where the glass is, and that range is about 12 meters or 10 meters, and that will not actually attract the enemy if they are that far, even though my current build is max range. Before in Wiki, the casting range is said to be infinite. However, me and Zendipants, we tried it on the planes and we already realized that it's not true. It's about, at that moment, it seemed to be like 95 meters away. But then I guess it's supposed to be around it 100 meters, and now the wiki is updated, and yeah, true enough, it's 100 meters casting range. There is something that I'd like to share with you guys is about nullifiers. Okay, if you have a nullifier present, and if you cast your third ability on it, it does do damage because the mirror breaks, and it does damage to the surrounding, basically. There you go. Do you see it? Let's try that again. And boom. Okay. Now, I guess in a way you could use this to your advantage and deal damage to surrounding enemies. So, for example, if we have what else do we have? Let's say Corpus. Corpus melees are, there you go, this one. Okay, let's have a few of them around. There you go. Technically, if you build with high power strength, or if you're versus less like enemies that's not as strong as these people are, you could use it as a blast damage and deal damage in that sense, but the damage is actually not that significant, so it's probably not worth modding or playing in this playstyle. But is it worth mentioning? Probably not as well, so just forget I said anything. Finally, we're gonna touch on the fourth ability. So the first thing I like to share about it is that if you have an enemy, let's say a heavy gunner, okay, if you proc something on it and then you use your fourth ability to freeze it, that proc duration will never end. Okay, so that is something. Now we actually did this before in a different video, and we used a different Warframe to pull this off. So basically, when the enemy gets frozen, the proc will just keep on continuing until it ends, as in until he gets unfrozen, and then the duration of the proc will continue. So there is a lot of potential, especially when you're playing with bleed and things like that. However, you do have to note that if the enemy is sort of frozen, or in this case turned into a glass, you can't really proc anything while it's in that state. You have to proc it before and then freeze it. Now there's something that I like to share with you guys is that if you were to do a bleed proc on the enemy and your passive were to turn on, it will actually start converting all of those bleed procs into stealth damage. Okay, so as you can see, there you go, there goes my passive, and everything starts to turn yellow. Before it was white. And yeah, this can happen. Now one of the better updates with Gara is actually her fourth ability, which now could cover a certain height as well. Alright, so for example, if I'm standing at this platform and I use my fourth, you can see it going down and cover that certain height. And you can see it actually goes a little bit over, as in under the floor. So this is the maximum height that you could have. Okay, if you cast it any longer, it's not gonna expand anymore, as in it's gonna expand, the radius is gonna increase, but the height is not gonna change. Alright, now let me just destroy this. So you want to be able to cast the maximum height, especially in the plains of Eidolons, where you want to cover a larger angle so that enemies from higher ground cannot shoot you or the objective or wherever it is that you're trying to protect. So the way I did it is that I realized if you bullet jump upwards and just before hitting the maximum altitude that you can reach, you use your fourth ability, you can actually get the maximum height. So for example, right now you bullet jump and then you cast. Okay, and you can see that it did overshoot a little bit, just a little bit. Okay, maybe I could probably do this a little bit better, just by timing it, casting my fourth ability a little bit sooner. There you go. Oh my god, this is so good. Okay, so this is almost just nice, and this is how you're gonna get the maximum height. Now I would recommend that the cone or cylinder to be slightly closer to you. When it's closer to you, you basically have a larger angle of coverage, so pretty much nothing except for things vertically from the top coming down will hurt you. It also reduces things like gaps and holes like these, so that people can actually shoot you from below if you're on higher ground. And yeah, really just to get used to casting it this way, to make that maximum height. And I find this really useful, and I hope that this helps you guys as well. As a side note, if the wall is too close to you, the drawback is that AoE damages can still hurt you. And also the fourth ability is able to block capture targets. It could freeze the stalkers, sentients. Although against the sentients, it will actually be less and less effective as you cast. It also works on Juggernaut, and it also works the same way. The more it gets frozen, the time that it stays frozen will slowly reduce more and more. In the previous video, I mentioned that Gara's fourth ability could block Nullifiers without actually getting it destroyed. Turns out that is actually a bug, and it is fixed, and what basically happens is that whenever the Nullifier bubbles touches Gara's fourth ability, it will just shatter. Before we end this video and do the Glyph giveaway, there's a few things that I'd like to make clear, because on the last video when we talked about how you can participate in this Glyph giveaway on YouTube, it wasn't made clear, and I realized that there is a lot of problems, gray areas, and it's going to make the transaction really messy. So I'm going to tweak the rules a little bit, and hopefully you guys are okay with it. So over there I said that I'm gonna do 10 glyph giveaways for every 100 subscriber, and after doing some calculations I realized that that is actually a little bit too much, and I'm gonna exhaust my codes really fast, because I'm also doing glyph giveaways on my streams, on Discord, and sometimes I held small contests where you guys can participate and gain those glyphs as well. So instead of 10 glyph giveaways for every 100 subscribers, it's only going to be 5 glyph giveaways for every 100 subscriber. The bright side is the next 100 is only about 30 subscriber away, so we're going to do another 5 glyph giveaway then. Now the next thing that I'd like to talk about is how you could actually participate. All you have to do is just make sure that when you comment whatever it is that you want to say, make sure you add a word giveaway at the back of your comment, and then I will know that you want a glyph and you want to take part. And also make sure that you are a subscriber. Every time we hit 100 subscriber milestone, I'm going to check the comment section of the current video or the last video produced to see who is the lucky winner. To claim the code, you must have a Discord account. All you have to do is PM me on Discord and verify that you are the person, the winner displayed on the screen, and then I will give you the code there. Now I do want to note that this is going to be a glyph that is for PC only. The one on consoles I do not have yet. It's only going to come to me according to the Warframe support team, that when the Plains of Eidolons hits the console, that is when we will get our glyphs for the consoles. Also, I'd like you guys to know that if you already have the glyph, please do not try to win it for your friends, okay? Let them do it. If they are not a supporter of mine, please let those that actually supports me and know what the glyph actually means or represents to have it. I'm very sorry about the added rules and change in structure. As you can see that if it's according to how it used to be, the old format, it's gonna be hard for me to know like if you are commenting for fun or if you actually want to participate in winning the Glyph giveaway. The transaction is gonna be really messy because YouTube don't really have a good PM system. So yeah, I hope you guys will understand, and this again is sort of my first time doing this on YouTube. For this Glyph giveaway, it's going to be based on the last Gara video that I made, and after that it's going to be based on the last video that I produced, I upload. So it's your job as a glyph hunter to find out which is the last video that I put right before we actually hit the 100 subscriber milestone every 100. So right now it's almost up to 2,700. So the next one will be 2,800 and so on. And now the first glyph giveaway on YouTube in my channel, the first winner is Sabertooth with a 7, Fear of Chicken, Fidel Foyne, Voltage, and Henna Dead. Congratulations to you guys. I hope I pronounced your name correctly, and do make sure that you PM me on Discord and tell me who you are. There is a way that I'll ask you to verify yourself, and once that's done you will get your glyph code. Now if you guys do not want to wait for the next 100 subscriber to try and win this glyph, you could join me on my stream as well every Tuesday and Wednesday. Now the time is stated on my Twitch offline banner, so do make sure you go and check that out. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.